houses are alive. This is something we know. News from our nerve endings.
Welcome back to SledgeHammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by the beautiful Taylor Elizabeth Norman. Taylor, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so stoked to have you here. A good friend of ours, Sparkle, hooked us up with each other, and I'm so glad she did. For you guys that don't know Taylor yet, she just filmed her first role in her first film called Dead Community Guild. Spoiler free, what can you tell us a little bit about the film?
So Dead Community Guild is a horror suspense, and it really takes place in the middle of Texas with this mysterious town called Redford. However, this town is not what it seems, and it's really post-apocalyptic. So you see what happens to people and how they turn into savages, and how ruthless they become whenever they have nothing else to do but kill each other and try to survive.
I can't picture you as a savage from the conversations we've had. You're just the kindest, sweetest person. So I can't wait to see this and see it come to fruition. Do we have, I know that you're just now getting wrapped up with filming. Do we have any type of ETA on when we can expect any type of arrival?
They were saying probably February of 2022 will be the initial release date to certain select theaters. And then from there, I'm not really sure what to expect. I'm just here.
Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, 100%, if there's anything you need, any promotion, anything like that, make sure you hit us up so we can promote it for you here at SledgeHammer Horror. But you guys don't have to wait for me to promote it, because I have Taylor's social media links right down here in the description. So make sure you're clicking these links and giving her a follow. This was her first film role of many. So you're going to want to follow her. The links are down here, not only for the film, but she also models, travels, makes costumes. All that you can check out down here. The modeling, especially on Instagram, on point. You do a great job. Now, when you talk about how you're doing costumes, what do you mean by you do costumes?
So it's just something small. Like my favorite holiday is Halloween. I have my wine glass. It says "Cheers, Witches." I don't know if you can read it on there, but I try to go all out for Halloween each year. I've done, I face paint. I make my own prosthetics. I did Freddy Krueger one year, and I did it from just straight up gelatin and toilet paper, just stuff like that. And each year I try to get better at it and come up with new ideas, because I try to do stuff that not everybody does, that year for Halloween. So, like when Harley Quinn was a big thing, I was like, I'm not going to do Harley Quinn. Like, I want to do stuff probably the three that I'm most proud of is I did a Darth Maul, freehand painted, and I'll have to send it to you. It looks fantastic, and I was so proud of myself for that. And then Maleficent and then Freddy Krueger are definitely my favorite costumes, hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And I love the fact that you're so passionate about what you're doing, because I'm with you. As a horror fan, Halloween is year round for me. It's something that I'm always digging. I'm always looking for things, and I'm always thinking constantly what we can do for Halloween this year. So I'm totally with you on that. Now, the reason that I brought you here, Taylor, is I know what you're doing now. Coming up, you have Dead Community Guild, and you're doing the costumes right now. But I want to take it back to the past, love, and I want to talk about what got you started in the horror genre. Your first horror movie, and your first horror movie was
Rose Red. It is
what?
Scared the crap out of me when I was little.
What's a long and arduous first horror movie? Now, for those of you that don't remember, Rose Red was not a cinematic film. Rose Red was a made-for-TV movie that had 3 different installments of an hour and a half, and you had to wait each week to figure out what happened with the next installment. And much like the It miniseries, I think that going back and rewatching Rose Red, it's fun. There's a lot of extra, and I would love to see this remade as a theatrical Hollywood film the way they did with It. Now, Taylor, do you remember how old you were the first time you seen Rose Red?
Oh gosh, I think I was probably like 8 or 9. I was pretty young. I wasn't supposed to watch it. Even my mom told me, or my brother, because I have an older brother that's super into horror as well. And she told him, she's like, don't let your sister watch this. And what does he do? Lets me watch
I like
it.
your brother already. And it's, you know what? It's funny because you have Annie in this film. And as a young lady, I'm sure that that's a character that you could relate to. I'm not saying because of anything on Spectrum or anything like that, but you have this younger, female character that you can relate to because you're around the same age as her. Do you think that had anything to do with you wanting to stay invested in the film, or do you think that was just a little over your head at that point?
Man, I think at that point I was just too young to really comprehend it, except for, the doll that she would carry around, kind of like had an attachment because, I would carry stuff like that around when I was little. So I guess I could relate to her in that way, but it was just more of like the spooky, like ominous factor that this movie had that just, I guess, intrigued me.
So you could relate to making rocks fall on your neighbor's house and crushing it to pieces because their dog bit you. That's something you couldn't really relate to at that age.
No, I mean, I wish I could for certain people, but no, unfortunately not.
So Rose Red, like I was saying at the beginning, this is a 4.5-hour film. And there is definitely no lack of scares or effective scenes in this film. Much like I said, I hate to keep comparing it, but our boy Stephen King did write both of these. This is Stephen King's Rose Red. Much like the It miniseries from 1990, there's a lot of scenes in here that are very effective and effectively done, especially in a made-for-TV film. Which scene would you say, Taylor, affected you the most?
That's hard because there was a lot of scenes that like really affected me as a child. I know for sure just the house itself with it constantly like moving and changing, like, for instance, when they were down that long hallway and then they came back that same way and it was like shorter and it looked nothing alike, and the library with the glass floor and like the little carpet monster that would go under the rugs, that horrified me. But I would probably say the number one was probably that little girl, with the withered arm. She really creeped me out. I had nightmares about her for the longest time.
And it's funny you say that because in one of the scenes that in a rewatch, because I always like to rewatch these films to freshen myself up on it. The scene you're talking about when they walk back down that hallway and the rope goes into the wall where they had just been. And then Nick asked Annie to come up and use this to push. And you see her push that wall. I remember as a kid watching that wall go flying, just like, holy shit, that was awesome. Obviously, a lot of the CGI from this doesn't hold up today. But watching that again, I got that feeling of, wow, that was super awesome to just watch that happen. And another scene that I think was very effective for me as a young boy, and I don't know why it affected me so bad. I want to say right now, I love Emery. Not the character, but the actor. The acting on Emery, if you watch him, even in the background throughout the movie, he's still doing his. I could totally see that guy stayed in character, even when they weren't rolling, and annoyed the dog shit out of everybody because he's so perfect for this role. But when he's holding that door and Annie gets knocked out and then she comes to and the door shuts and cuts his fingers off, I remember being a little kid and that just scaring the shit out of me.
That part was really rough. Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. That and then because I watched it last night too, just to like catch up and make sure, because it's been forever since I've seen it. The part towards the end, I think it's like the second part or something, and it shows like, the big portrait of, the Rimbauers, I think is their last name, that first owned the house, and all of a sudden the wife, Ellen or something like that, like her face turned evil, just like snarling, and then boom, she disappeared out of the portrait. And I'm just like, that is so creepy to me.
See, and it's funny you say that. I wanted to talk about that scene, so we might as well talk about it now. As a child, something that always scared me were things like that. And again, guys, I'm so sorry I'm going back to it again. But in the It miniseries, when you have Georgie's picture wink at Bill, when it's in the scrapbook, or this when she's, because right before Ellen Rimbauer turns into a monster and pops out at her, we find out that her and Sukina were the ones that murdered her husband, John. They pushed him out the window. It was not suicide. And our writer, psychic at this point, figures it out. So this was kind of the big twist at this moment. Spoilers, if you haven't seen Rose Red, sorry, we kind of spoiled it for you just now. But that is such an effective scene. When you take something that's normal every day for us, like looking at a portrait in your hallway or flipping through a photo album in your house, and you make these pictures come to life, that's terrifying to me. So I'm so glad that you brought that up.
It's definitely terrifying. And yeah, just, you keep bringing it up, but that when I was little, that movie used to terrify the crap out of me too. Like Tim Curry did such an amazing job playing Pennywise. He nailed it.
And I think that people always ask me, like, who was your favorite Pennywise? Was it Bill Skarsgård? Was it Tim Curry? And to me, it's impossible to choose because they're two completely different characters. Yes, they're both playing Pennywise, but Tim Curry's version, I think, is scarier because he looks like a regular clown. He looks like a clown that I would have approached as a kid. Like, hey, I want a balloon, you know. As Bill Skarsgård's is scarier because he just is a monster. Like, he's terrifying looking. There's nothing about him that's down to earth, almost. I guess I want to say there's nothing human about him. As to where the Tim Curry one, it seems like he would be an approachable clown until he turns. Skarsgård's, I would have shit myself and ran the other way no matter what.
Right. Yeah. I completely agree. Yeah.
So with Rose Red, Taylor, let's say you and I are just sitting at a bar having a drink and some guy walks up to the table for some reason. I was like, yo, have you guys seen Rose Red? What is the first thing that would pop into your head the minute someone says Rose Red?
Oh gosh, just the mansion itself, honestly, just that, you know, the house changing, you know, there's like a lot of scenes that just pop in my head. The fireplace with the, you know, that devil face coming out of the fire, the girl with a withered arm, and then, you know, like the corpses, like they just, I know it's like CGI back then or like puppets or something, but they just look so creepy and like withered raisins. Like, I don't know, it's just hard to it's hard to place them, and they're just super creepy. I don't know.
Especially at the end when they swarm her. You know, if you know that she's about to die and all these ghosts are just swarming her. I love that. Even now, like watching it, I was like, yes, that was awesome. I loved that scene.
Yeah, I was so stoked when the professor finally, you know, gets taken out because she deserved it. Let's all be honest here. She deserved it.
And something that not a lot of people know about me. You learn this more the more you get to know me. I'm a germaphobe. Don't like germs. I don't swim in pools. I think that's disgusting. If we're going to go swimming together, I might as well just lay down, let you piss on my face, and then pour chlorine on it. It's the same thing. If I go to a restaurant, I take my own silverware, or I ask them if they have plastic wrapped silverware because I'm not putting a fork in my mouth that 30,000 other people have had in their mouths. It's not going to happen. So a part in Rose Red, when she cuts her finger, and then she starts rubbing the blood in her hands, and then she puts it on that guy's face. I would have committed suicide right at that moment. It would have been a murder suicide right in that moment, because that seemed to me, even watching it now, I was watching with the blood and it started to come back. I was like, oh my God, she puts that on his face. You know, like that's so disgusting to me.
It's disgusting. I really hated her character.
She was an awful character. The way that she wanted to do everything, especially with Annie, the way that she tried to take advantage of her. Again, I was a parapro at a school. I worked with autistic children. My nephew's autistic. My daughter's on the spectrum. She's high functioning. I don't like the term Asperger's, but she's high functioning autism. So this is a movie that I love what they did with Annie in this movie, because I believe that autistic people are on a higher level when it comes to their mentality. Like when they were talking about, I can see her mind, but I can't reach her. Like that's how I've always felt with autistic people. They can see your color. They know you. They know if you're good or bad. And I love the way they portrayed Annie in this movie. They didn't make her, I hate when they portray autistic people in movies and they make them worthless. Like that really is upsetting to me, because they're not. And the way they portrayed Annie in this movie, they made her a child. They made her a human being. Like she wanted to play with that dollhouse so bad. Like that's all she wanted, was to play with that dollhouse. She wanted to listen to her music. She made music come from flowers. Like everything they did with Annie in this movie, I thought was perfect. And the actress that did it, she also from Halloween Town, her name's escaping me, but she did an amazing job portraying Annie in this film. And that actually brings me to my next question. We've talked about which scene affected you the most in this movie, Taylor, and there's a lot of scenes, but what would you say your favorite scene from Rose Red would be?
Oh man, that's really a hard question. So I have two. The first one's kind of funny because I'm sorry, but I could not stand Emery's mother. She's yelling all the time and screaming. And when she was finally taken out, I was like, thank God she's gone. She drove me nuts, but you know, I will also have to go with the ending, you know, when the professor, you know, gets what's coming to her. You know, I really enjoyed that scene. And you know, everybody else, especially you know, Annie got out of the house, so that's, you know.
And I do love at the very end how you got Emery's redemption arc. You know, how him and Annie are close at the end. you know, like he's finally gotten rid of his mother, which that was an amazing jump scare, by the way, when she came through that mirror and grabbed him there at the end. Even on a rewatch, I forgot about it. I was like, oh, that was great. Because you're right. That's one of those ladies that you're just like, you are made to hate her the minute you meet her. When she's like, well, did you try to get 7 out of her? Oh, what? And you believed her? Oh, all my stuff's in the car, Emery. Go get all my stuff that I just bought. I'm a very reasonable shopper. And he's going through the bills and shit. Like, you're made to hate this woman the minute you meet her. And just to watch her go over the edge is almost a satisfying thing. With as evil as that is, it is satisfying.
It was, yeah. Yeah. I couldn't stand her screaming anymore. I couldn't do it.
Emmers! Like, oh, I'm so with you. So,
I was
as
like,
horror fans, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was like, I had to mute my TV there for a little bit when she kept saying it over and over. I was like, I can't do this, lady. Come on.
Right. You killed my Emery. Like, shut up, bitch.
Thank you.
As horror fans, something that we absolutely love in a film is kills. It's something that we always look for. We're always happy to see it. As gross and disgusting as that sounds. In Rose Red, there are plenty of kills and deaths. What would you say your favorite kill or death from Rose? Not favorite, that's dark. Which kill or death stuck with you the most from Rose Red?
Honestly, it had to have been when it was, it was a flashback whenever the owner of the house, his partner, ended up committing suicide in front of his partner's children by hanging himself right in front of them. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awful.
And how he throws the boy the cowboy hat and throws the girl the rose, and then you just watch his cowboy boots dangle. You're right, that's dark and sad. Those kids gotta live that for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, yep, exactly. I'm like, man, you could have done that in like the solitude of like your own closet or something. Like for kids.
So this is a movie, like I said, 4.5 hour movie. It means a lot to both of us. This obviously affected you. And we talked about what your first horror movie was, being Rose Red, Taylor. But now, for a second, I got to go scream on you. What's your favorite scary movie? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Oh, man. Okay. So I have like 2 different categories because I have like the category that actually like scares the crap out of me that I can't watch by myself. And I have the category that I think is just like really good but doesn't scare me.
Okay.
So
well, give me one of each.
The one that scares me, terrifies me to this day, I will not watch it by myself, I will not watch it in the dark, is The Ring. And, I was pretty young when I saw that movie, and I'm pretty sure I'm scarred from it for life because my dad, when I first watched it, I had a sleepover. I had a friend come and stay with me, and we're by ourselves, and my dad went out, whatever, to go hang out with somebody. And, the movie ended, and it was when we still had like home phones, and it said unavailable. And my friend's like, don't answer it, don't answer it, don't answer it. Well, I picked it up, I answered it, and all I hear is 7 days. And I just literally died. I threw the phone, I was screaming, crying on the floor. And then all of a sudden I hear my dad and his friend like come in from the garage laughing. And I'm like, it's not funny. So,
I like your dad too, man. Your brother and your dad sound like the coolest fucking dudes ever. That's so rad.
It literally, it scarred me. Like that movie, I cannot do it. And I couldn't sleep by a TV for like months. I couldn't be by a TV.
That's so rad.
The other one, on the other hand, it doesn't scare me. I just love this movie. I love the writing, the actors in it, is 13 Ghosts.
Sure.
Because it has humor in there.
Are you talking about the new remake with Matthew Lillard or the original?
The remake with Matthew Lillard. I don't think I've seen the original, actually.
It's a Vincent Price. It's honestly, I like both of them. The newer one with Matthew Lillard, I think, is more poppy, more bubblegum. The old. It's obviously the old one's kind of like the House on Haunted Hill original. But they're both great. They're both great films, and I would strongly recommend, if you get the chance, to check out the original 13 Ghosts. It's a very good movie.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to watch it because I really love the remake, and I just love the story behind it. And I was like hoping that they would like come off with like a spin-off series about each of the ghosts, and I just thought it'd be really cool. But yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Well, could you imagine, like, because I've talked about that before too, like even just like a Netflix series could only be a 13-part series. You could even do a 12-part and not have to do the Withered Mother of just the 13 ghosts. And you have, a 12-episode series, and one is just like how they each lived their life and became what they became, because they're all such dark stories. Because I don't know if you did, but if you had the DVD of 13 Ghosts, they gave a little backstory for each ghost in the special features. And I would love to see that as like a 1-hour episode on each one of those ghosts. I think that would be super hugely successful.
Yes, me too. I think a lot of people would watch it. And I did. I watched that on the DVD. I watched it a lot of times because I'm like, I wish there was more to it, like go more in depth on these ghosts. Like, because I think it was the jackal was the one that always freaked me out. Like, he was just terrifying with his hair, probably because he looks like Samara, kind of.
Right.
Him
and the Juggernaut was the one that got me. Like, that dude.
Yeah.
That was a beast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't want to fuck with him.
No, not at all. So Taylor, we are at the end of our show now. So I always end these with the same question. We're going to go back to Rose Red, and we're going to talk about giving it a ranking. We're going to give it a skull ranking, 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. Now, what we're doing here, we're not being critics. We're not judging it on production, CGI, acting, score. We're strictly judging this movie on what it means to you and how much it affected you. So 0 to 5 skulls, you can use half and quarter skulls. What would your ranking of Rose Red be?
I'd have to go with a 2.5. I
Right
would give it a 3, but Emery's mother just knocked that down a notch for me.
Cut her skull right in half to make it 2.5.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a fair ranking. Like I said, this is a film. It's number 2 on my Stephen King made for TV films I'd like to see a remake of. Number 1 is Sometimes They Come Back. That's my favorite Stephen King film of all time. I love that film. Now, I do want to remind everybody, please make sure you're clicking these links down here in the description and giving Taylor a follow. She will keep you updated on the film. I will try to give you updates as soon as I can, but what better than to get them from the horse's mouth and check out all the stuff that she's doing. As always, guys, Taylor, sorry, I messed up a little bit there. Don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.